Hello everybody, I hope you're all well and in the best of health. I thought I'd make a video just to raise some thoughts about the current situation and maybe how we can deal with it. Now obviously from what's actually happening from the spread of the virus point of view, I'm a martial arts instructor. I know nothing about viruses. We should always listen to the experts on this stuff is my view, and of course in this age of social media there's lots of misinformation. Some people have been very complacent, some people at the other extreme scaremongering, neither of which is particularly healthy. So for me, I would always, if anyone's telling you anything about how to deal with the virus itself, are they an expert in this scenario? Are they someone from the authorities, or is it some random martial arts instructor, fitness personality, whatever it is, making posts on the internet? I would ignore that stuff if I was you. So I'm not going to talk about the virus itself. I'm going to talk about how we can continue our training and how we can address these problems from a martial arts perspective in keeping our martial arts going. Now obviously in the grand scheme of things, that's one of the least important things that's going on in the moment, right? But for us martial artists, our training is something that's really important to us. It's part of who we are. It defines us. So in all amongst this chaos, if we can find these little pockets of normality to hang on to, I think that kind of really helps. So I want to break this down to two parts. The first part, I want to talk to the individuals as students. And then of course, people who are badly affected by this are school owners, full-time martial arts instructors. Obviously, you've probably seen your income disappear overnight. So I want to address that as well and maybe give some thoughts. Before I start breaking those down, just one thing that I will say is that, in all things like this, it's community that matters, right? And your local martial arts community and obviously the global one. And I think it's one of these things when we all pull together and we all move in the right direction, we can all help each other out to quite a degree. We're giving encouragement and support in whatever way we can. And I hope in some way this video contributes towards that. So let's have a look at what you as an individual can do to continue your training during this difficult time. So I'm going to make the assumption that you're forced into solo training at the moment. Now I know for some of you in some parts of the world at the moment, you're still able to train, so lucky you. And for other people, you will have family members you can train with. Well, that's great too. That's a good thing to do if you're all isolated together. But I'm going to address this at those who are now on their own with no other martial artists around them to train with. So what do you do? So the first thing is, I'm really impressed by the amount of martial arts instructors who have very quickly produced online content for their students. Here's the katas I want you to work on. Here's some home workouts. Quite a few people doing live broadcasts of training. Quite a few people saying, okay, send me videos of the katas and I'll correct you and send feedback back. A lot of people using technology, which is smart, on the feet thinking. So well done all the instructors who've thought of that. So for all the students, if your instructor's doing that, take advantage of it, right? And if not, find someone else's whose material that you can make use of. As I say in my app, I've added some solo training stuff at the moment. If you're not a subscriber to the app but you're in lockdown and you want this stuff, just drop me an email at app@iainabernethy.com and I'll put that in the notes, the email address, and I'll get you set up so you can access that too. Because some things we can do for solo training, ready-made, right? So kata's an obvious example. You can be working your kata. What I'd suggest I would do if I were you is video yourself doing it. Look for little corrections. If your instructors are amiable to it, email the clip to them, see what little corrections they can give you. That's a way in which you can keep making progress. Of course, you may not have the space to do the kata in full, but that can be a positive because in reality, often situations don't take place in big, wide open, flat surfaces. So the ability to be able to adjust the kata to the location is quite important. That's a fun way to train. So maybe say, okay, how do I do the kata in my living room, in my kitchen, on the landing, various spaces. Just see how you can make the kata work, and you may have to shuffle your footwork around. Good exercise in spatial awareness, which again, when you're fighting, because fights happen in places, right? It's good for thinking of how you can adapt and be aware of your surroundings, right? Because it's important for self-defense. So let's make use of it. Let's make a negative into a positive. Fitness training obviously can continue. Now, if you got home exercise equipment, great, you can make use of it. Some of you won't, of course, but that's fine. You can still do body weight exercises. There's loads of good workouts you can do that don't require any kit. In the app, I have a 6-week training program. Again, if you want to have a look at that, just let me know and I can set you up with that, and that'll keep you you're busy too. But there's lots of that kind of stuff online. I also think as well as those kind of things, now is a good time to kind of to invest in your own knowledge too, right? Because within life generally, there's times to reap and there's times to sow. It's definitely a time to sow at the moment. You need to be thinking about what can I do now that will improve the future, right? You're not going to be reaping those benefits at the moment. Nobody is, because of the global situation. So you make positive use of this time. So study, watch YouTube videos, learn a few new techniques if you can, get some new ideas, read those old historical books you've been meaning to read, find out what good online resources you can make use of, right? And maybe you just expand your knowledge a little bit for the fun of it too. Maybe learn some new yoga postures. Give that a go. That challenge. Learn a new kata. Again, it's not ideal, but in these non-ideal circumstances, maybe hit YouTube and look for a kata that you've always wanted to learn, and try your best to learn it from the video. It doesn't matter if it's a bit rough around the edges or whatever like that. Just the fun of learning something new. Again, that feeling of making progress in these difficult times, again, will be good for your mental health as well as good for your martial arts as well. So yeah, so I hope that gives you some ideas. But there's lots of good things out there. There's no reason for training to stop in its entirety. If I was you, I'd be setting short-term goals for myself too. What do I want to be able to achieve while all this is over? Maybe you want to lose a couple of pounds. Maybe you want to add a number of repetitions to your press-ups. Whatever it is, give yourselves these short-term goals and keep trying to make progress. That's what martial arts do, right? These are very difficult times, right? And part of that martial spirit, that Budo spirit, is we can't always make a great move, but we'll make the best move we can make in the circumstances. So we'll now talk about things from the instructor's point of view. Now, obviously, if you're a student, still continue watching this, because in order to learn, you'll be learning from an instructor, and you need to have an appreciation of what they may be up against and how maybe you can help them. We're a community, right? So everyone needs to help everybody else out. Obviously, it's bad for everyone, this, but the ones that I'm most aware of that will be facing the most hardship at the moment, judging by my inbox and the amount of people who've kind of been in contact with me, are the full-time martial arts instructors, because your income may have disappeared overnight. Of course, you're not alone in that. A lot of gyms are suffering, cafes, pubs, restaurants, it's hitting everybody. So the first thing, the big picture stuff is you may want to have a look at what your local government is doing to kind of help out. Now, you may agree or disagree with what they're doing. You may think it's enough or not enough. It'll vary from part of the world to part of the world, but you may want to look, and just see, is there any relief on having to pay business rates? Is there any relief on having to pay tax bills? Can you defer anything? So look at the big picture stuff, for those that are full time. The other thing is, as I already mentioned, is, as the instructor, do what you can do to keep your students active. Your students will appreciate this, and they need you to do this as well. So if you can't train directly, maybe look to do some live streaming things. Maybe get students to send the video back and feed it. Do what you can. Look at what others are doing, and take some of the really good ideas and try and do the same kind of thing. Talk to your students as well, right? Because some of them will obviously be facing their own hard times, right? And obviously that needs to be factored in, but for some of them, they'll still be earning as before, depending on what business they're in. If you explain, that although you're not coming to classes, if you want classes to be there when all this is over, we need the financial support in the interim. I think you'll find that most of the students that are able to, because they value their martial arts, will be very supportive. It's quite heartwarming, actually, to realise how much students do value what we do. So don't be afraid to tell them, look, all of a sudden, all income is gone, can't teach. If you can keep those standing orders going at the moment, it would be greatly appreciated. You may find more than you think. We'll be more than happy to do so. And of course, you can pay them back in some way. You can organise something for when all this is done. And again, you can keep interacting them via the internet as well. It's not time for you to sit back. You need to do what you can for your students. And I'm sure when you're doing that, your students will do what they can for you. Again, we're all in this together. So we've talked about how students can productively use this downtime. Instructors need to productively use this downtime too, I would suggest. So I'm a lucky man that, on my travels, I've get to meet lots of people and lots of wise people. And I was once sitting in this guy's living room at a seminar we were doing, and we're just chatting about life and philosophy and all things, martial and otherwise. And this guy came out with a phrase that I just loved, and he was saying that life is often like chess. He goes, sometimes you're in good positions, sometimes you're in bad positions, but what you've always got to do is you make the best move you can, right? And so we're now in a situation where you've just got to make the best move you can. You're not going to make winning moves, but you make the best move you can. I'm also, we just get a little philosophical for a second. I am a believer in fate. But not in the way that our lives are predestined. I don't believe in that. But I do believe there is such a thing as the momentum of past events, right? So at a certain point, certain things in life become unavoidable because of what's gone before, right? So if you can imagine driving a car at high speed towards a wall, there's a certain point where you can put the brake and you won't hit the wall. But after a certain point, it is now fate that car is going to smash into that wall no matter what you do, right? To give a very crude, simplistic example, right? So, of course, past events are determined by what we do in the present. So at the moment, what you've got to do is, okay, for my future fate, what can I do in the present that will give me the momentum to take me to where I want to be, right? And at the moment, they're not going to be big things, but the small things do add up. So you need to be planning ahead, right? You need to be thinking, okay, firstly, what can I do to mitigate the circumstances I'm in? To thrive, you've got to survive, right? So get that in place first. Talk to students, get this online training going, do whatever you can do at the moment. The other thing is, now's the time, again, time to sow so you can reap later on. So what can you be doing? If there's, start planning your advertising campaigns for when all this is done. Start planning new training protocols for students. Start gathering new information in that can make the classes more exciting and more productive when this is all over. Make good use of this time so that going forwards, when all this is done and dusted, your classes are the biggest and best they could possibly be. So again, now's the time to sow. It's not the time to reap. Another thing that I think is important to do is you've always got to look for, well, where's the opportunity here, right? Okay, there's obviously problems, but where's the opportunity? So one thing that we all are at the moment, we are full-time martial arts instructors, we are going to be cash poor, but we're time rich. Right? We now have a lot of time on our hands. So invest that time. Use that time to create these past events that will give you a momentum to a stronger future. Right? So in my case, I'm way behind on podcasts, as you know. So expect a lot of podcasts coming from me because I've suddenly got the time to edit them. I can catch up on that. I'm a little bit behind on my books, right? So I can get all the maths done, so that's ready to pass on to the accountant. You all know I'm a little bit behind on my writing. I've got books that have been on the go for years. I now have the opportunity to catch up on those kind of things. So it's just looking for, okay, what were the things that I couldn't do that I can now do that will help me going forwards in the future? And I'm sure you can think of lots of things too. So you don't want to be sitting there twiddling your thumbs. You want to think, okay, what can I do? What's the best move I can make at this moment in time in order to make sure that things will be better for me going forward? And I'm sure there's loads of different things you can think of. Okay, so just some final thoughts for everybody, right? We are martial artists. We are people who, for fun, take on very difficult, stressful activities for the enjoyment that gives us and for the growth. We are people who like a challenge and respond well to a challenge. We've got one. We've got one. We are told endlessly that the martial arts aren't just about fighting. They are not just about what happens in the dojo. They're about how we conduct ourselves in everyday life, right? It's like practical skills, your ability to realistically kick, punch, and choke. If you never test them, how do you know you've got those skills, right? So now you have a test. So this is going to test your ingenuity. It's going to test your resolve. It's going to test your compassion, right? All of these things are going to be tested, and that's a good thing. So what you need to do is you need to rise to those challenges best you can. Doesn't mean you're going to do it perfectly, because no one does anything perfectly, right? You're going to trip up and you're going to get a few things wrong. You're going to have moments of despair and whatever else. It's fine. But overall, the big picture is what you need to make sure you're doing is you are rising to the challenge, right? To take enjoyment in that. Use this as an opportunity to grow stronger and to show people who you are and what martial arts have done for you. Show people how compassionate you can be, how caring you can be, how ingenious you can be, by pulling together in this way as well, by helping one another as well, by working as a community. We'll get through it. We'll be stronger because of it. You know, that's the way we as martial artists work, right? So it's very easy in these situations to look for the negatives and wallow in the negatives, especially, you know, because you knock on the news, that's all you're getting. You look at social media, and that's 99% of what you're getting, right? So it's a very kind of dark time. You need to be a beacon of light in this time, right? You need to rise to this challenge, and there's a feeling of power in that too. You know, if you can feel it, you know, that in the pit of your stomach, whereas, yep, you know, I ain't going to be beaten by this. You know, I'm going to rise to this challenge. I'm going to use this as an opportunity for growth. If you can get that martial mindset applied to this scenario, you're going to help yourself, you're going to help your students, you're going to help your instructors, you're going to help everyone around you, right? So that's not to underplay the difficulty of this, you know what I mean? It is a very, very difficult time, but we can rise to the challenge of these things. So I'm going to put them on the screen, one of my favorite Funakoshi quotes. Now, on the back of my grading syllabus, as my students will know, we have a list of quotes, you know, martial, tactical, and some inspirational. There is only one in bold, right? There's only one big one, because I think this is the most important one. So for my own students, I'm telling you, want to know what karate is all about? It's this next quote. I want to put it up on the screen. I want you to have a read of it. I want you to have a think about it. Okay, so I'll be back in touch as well. You know, if you want to talk to me, if I can be of any help, you know where I am. It's Iain at iainabernethy.com, and you know, stay strong, people. This will all be over soon. All right.